Welcome back to another Peaceful Solution Carriage Education Program parenting class. We're going to pick up on page 73, but before we start there, I want to flip back to the procedure, and I want to remind us what we're supposed to be going over with our students in this procedure. So if you go to page LP9B, it says that on page 73 and 74, discuss how drastically society has changed in the past 50 years concerning work ethics. Children used to be expected to help with household chores. It was a part of being a family unit. As a class, brainstorm different lifestyles parents could teach their children. So let's go ahead and turn back to page 73. And last week we talked about that the word work might scare people because they think I have to do all of these things. But little do you know that every day you're actually working. When you make your bed, that's a part of work. It's little things that add up, and they really take a part of every area of our life. The last question, it says on the paragraph of page 73, it says, did you come home and sit in front of your TV, eat your supper there, and then eventually fall asleep? Or do you work to model a work ethic, teaching your child different life skills? And we're going to get into what different life skills are. But I looked up what has changed in the work ethics from 50 years ago till today. And the article that popped up was from Quora.com. And it says that, in short, I believe American work ethic has changed drastically over the last 50 years. Everyone is becoming a winner and giving out 10th-place trophies. It goes on to say that it is this practice that seemed to have started with parents trying to make sure their child, their perfect little baby, never felt like a loser. Although it sounds harmless regarding a child that has failed, ultimately coming in 10th place, with the same reward as a child that had come in the first place, can be damaging. So it's saying it's talking about, let's say, a 10th place thing. We'll just talk about sports. Sports is normally where trophies are given, or spelling bees. Let's say there's 10 places, and your child came in 10th place, and it got the same reward as the person who got in the first place. As they grow older, it's going to become damaging, because if they go to apply for a career and that number one person is going to get the job, so when they walk away, they might walk away feeling like a loser, but they're not a loser. They just have to try a little bit harder. And this is what it's talking about, because everyone is seeming to think, well, I'm not great enough, or I didn't make it number one, or I tried hard but I didn't get the first spot. It's okay that you didn't get the first spot. It doesn't mean you're a loser. Just try a little bit harder. And we're showing how the work ethic has changed, where everyone feels like they have to be equally as talented as the other person. Yet we're all different. We all share, we're on 99.9% the same. Yet we all have different qualities. I have a cousin who is way better at drawing than me. And I tried to draw, and I was like, it's just not for me. But that's okay that it's not for me. It doesn't mean that I have to force myself to learn to draw just to be like her. Because maybe I have talent in another area. So find your talent in your area. Just because you're not great at everything that everyone else is, doesn't mean that you're a loser and you're not great at something. And this is the mindset that we want to place in front of our children. Just because we have not succeeded at something at once, doesn't mean we shouldn't continue to succeed, or to try to succeed. On page 73, the paragraph said, remember, children learn best by doing, not watching others do for them. Start when the child is young. Have the child pick up the blocks or books and put them back on the shelf. Have the child help him carry the dishes to the sink and wipe the table. The simplest task can become building blocks for laying the foundation to becoming a willing worker. I was watching a video about work ethics, and this lady was saying how people come to her and they say, my child won't do anything. And they said, well, what do you want your child to do? And they're like, I just want my child to do anything. I just want him to get up and do something. And she stated how that child needs to have a structure. That child needs to know the purpose. You want me to do something? Well, what do you want me to do? So she said how it's important. We'll go on to learn about assigning chores. But she said if you have a chore list of that child knows this is what I'm supposed to do. We covered last week that if children know what they're expected of, then they're more likely to do it because they have a goal, they have a purpose. They know why they're working. They're not working just because I don't want to make mom, dad, or my guardian upset. I'm working because I know it's going to better me. It's going to get me somewhere, even if that somewhere is a clean bedroom, or if that somewhere is a satisfaction that I can actually do something. That is worth trying for. Going on, it says, don't fall into a common trap for parents, doing it all for them. This can damage character development and take years to overcome when they become adults. It is really easy to do all the chores. It makes the parents tired, but it also hinders our children from actually growing, being able to do things. I think about if you consistently do everything, and then one day you're not feeling well, or one day you have a business trip, or you ask your child to do something, and because you have not told them how to do it, are they going to be able to do it? No, they might shut down. They might not want to do anything because they feel so overwhelmed, because they've been asked to do a task that they have not been shown the steps on how to complete that task. So whenever we start by our example and we show our children, this is what I expect. And it doesn't always have to be this is what I expect because if you don't do it, you're not going to get this. No, this is what I would like you to do because you're a part of this family. When you're a part of a family, you work together. You do your part. Going on, it says, avoid training a child to only work for pay. This sets in the mind a desire to only do something when there is something received in return. And in lesson 11, we go into rewards and consequences. So we'll get into different things about that. But it is okay to give your child an allowance. And this is what we continue to go over, is that there are chores that are meant because you are a part of a family. But there are extra things, maybe doing yard work or certain things that you as a parent can decide, my child can get an allowance for this. Because that also shows the child that, yes, you work, you have a clean house, but there's also things that you work for so you can get for yourself. And it shows them that you have to earn things. You know, the house, the phone, everything that you want, it actually has to be worked for. Money does not grow on trees. I know parents, you want ice cream, here's the money. But that actually had to be worked for. Actions had to be taken for that money to actually be in the hands of your parents. And I think it's a very important thing for parents to talk to children about. You don't have to lay them all your stress of your work, but do explain to them the concept of what it does mean to work. I wake up in the morning, I go to work. In my line, I do not have children, but in my line of work, I help build furniture, I fill pillows, I make the furniture become complete. That is my job. So if I was to explain it to my siblings, this is what I do. This is what I do. This is how I make money. This is how the company makes money. And so explain those things to your children because they might not know what work means. And they might also want, what you do at your work, but they might also become intrigued about what you do. So all of these are ways that you can teach your children that work is not something scary, but it's something that you can grow from. It's something that you can learn from. It says this, when a child only wants to work for pay, this sets in a mind a desire to do something only when they receive something in return. Teach a child to want to pitch in and help, just because the help is needed. This takes a focus off of self, me, what will I get for this, and instead develop a desire to help others. And this all comes back to what we role model for our children. The teacher last week shared how the mother said something and that stuck in the child's mind about how she no longer wanted to live. Well, take that back a little bit and think about what we say about our jobs, what we say about our chores. I know I am guilty of saying, oh my word, I have to do dishes. And I've heard one of my siblings say, is it not fun to do dishes? And I'm like, oh no. And I explained to them, sometimes cleaning is not always fun. It's not always something you want to do. But there are perks to it. So what do I have to do? I have to change my mood. Maybe I'm not up to doing what I need to do, but I'm going to do it. Why? Because it is my job. It is a part of how I help the family. And by doing things, your chores, by speaking kindly to others, you actually show others that you care. I was teaching one young lady a couple days ago, and she said that in her family, if the dishes are not done, if it's your night to do dishes and you do not do dishes that night, the next night you still are on dishes. And the next night after that, you are still on dishes. So until you fulfill your obligation, you are on dishes. And I thought, well, that's a way to keep children accountable, because no matter what, until you do your job, that is, you're going to have to do it until it goes to the next person. So each family has different rotations. Maybe every other day, one does laundry, one does dishes, maybe 1 week. Every other week they switch, but it's that part of making it accountable, showing that you care for another person by doing your part. Keep in mind that the younger you begin teaching your children to be responsible in doing work, the less trouble you will have with the older teen who has claimed he is bored and hates doing anything to help around the house. And this goes back to how our society has changed today, because I have seen many people, not all of children in society, but I have seen many people who they want to be pro gamers. That is their job. That's how they want to make money. Okay, making money is great. How you want to do it, as long as it doesn't hurt yourself, others, and the environment, then that is an okay choice. But the fact that children have all of these things surrounding them, and even ourselves having ourselves surrounded every single day, if you were to take a child's toy away and you left them with a phone, do you think that they would accomplish anything because you took their toys away? They have a phone. You have a phone. You really don't need anything else if you give it to a child. They have every video they want to watch, every song. They can call a friend. So when a child is bored, maybe it's because they are unaware of how to be productive. Maybe they need to be shown, this is what I can do with my time. I took the entertainment away. Well, now, what am I supposed to do? That's what I filled my time with all the time. Ever heard of phase 10? Ever heard of mowing a lawn? Maybe gardening? Talking with our children about what we do in our life, our family history, what is important to them, what activities they can do, and what they are interested in, can actually fill up those time slots of things that they might not have been using in a productive way. All right, so we're going to want to go to page 73, and it says, you can teach a child to enjoy work. You can teach a child to enjoy work. And something that I personally like to do, I like to wash vehicles. I like to detail vehicles. And I started to think, why do I like to do this? It's actually very therapeutic for me. But I think back to when I was younger, one of my jobs was to clean vehicles out. That was my job. So, I would clean spills up, and over time, I continue to do it over and over and over. So now it's something that I really enjoy. And as I grew up, my siblings, we would have them wash vehicles too. So now it's time to wash vehicles. Who wants to spray the water hose? It's something that's become enjoyable to them. So when we make I don't want to say jobs, when we make our tasks enjoyable, when we show that it's not always dreadful, our children are going to pick up on that. What we role model is what we're going to see in our children. Yes, they're individuals. Yes, they make their own choices, but they are also sponges. So they will pick up on everything that we do. On page 74, it says, consider this typical scene. Dad is in the kitchen fixing supper after a long day of work. The laundry is piled on the chair, needing to be folded and put away. There is a stack of dishes in the sink, and the lawn needs mowing. Yet the children are sitting around watching a movie, calling to Dad, when's supper? I'm hungry. Imagine that. Some people reading this might be, why is this like this? Why are the clothes not folded up? Have you lived in a house with children? Have you lived in a house with multiple people? It is very easy. You're so busy, and then the next day things can pile up and the laundry is not done. Or, things aren't done how you would want them to be done. But this is a time where you can really evaluate what's going on in the situation. The dad is busy cooking, but the children are all watching TV. Why? Well, it depends on this household, but there might not have been a routine or the children know what to do. Or If you have multiple children, it might be easy just to sit the children down and then just cook supper and do it all after. But when you really think about this, teaching children to be a part, to take responsibility, to be willing to help, not always having to be asked, will you do this, but offering to do it, it helps them to not be lazy, honestly. It helps you to not be lazy and to be accountable for their actions. See, I see that he's very overwhelmed, or this person's very overwhelmed. I see these clothes are not where they're supposed to be. Maybe I can help in doing this. And going on, it talks about how the work is plenteous, and our first priority should be to fill in all of our time with the things that need to be done, and then allow for other activities. So let's say when the children come home, have them do the things that they need to do. Because I can tell you, if someone gets involved in an activity and it's very exciting, do you think they're going to want to stop and go clean their room? No, because they're already caught up in the activity. So maybe whenever you come home, do your chores like you're supposed to, and then you can do those activities. It says, teach children to share the load and not expect parents to do it all for them. Children do ask for help, and that's okay. But have you ever been asked for help and then it's like the child's walking out of the room and it's like, I thought I was helping you, not doing it for you. So even though they do ask for help, notice they ask for help. So yes, you can help them do these things, but also make them realize that this is your task. I will help you, but you are also going to do your part and, put the things away, because this is how you work together. And there's a lot of team building activities, because there's times when children might not get along, siblings might not get along. There's always those times. And there's team building activities where they have to build cups, or they have to move things together, or try to figure out a puzzle. Those team building activities will actually help in children working together, because they realize that I can't do it alone. I am responsible for my things, but I can't do it alone. So these team building activities help children be responsible for their actions, but also help them know that everything that I do, I choose to do. It is a choice. So it says, teach children to share the load and not expect parents to do it for them. A father or mother with children old enough to help should never be the only ones doing chores in the home. Children should be helpful even at a young age. Be patient with your children while they make efforts to assist with chores. There isn't anything a child can't reasonably learn to do according to their age. And something I did is I went online and I looked up reasonable chores for children. And there was a variety of them. They were from about 2 to 16, and I wanted to read a few of them for you. And as a teacher, you can give these ideas to your students as well. It's okay to look online for charts and look online for certain tasks that your child can do. So it says, like, for 2 to 3-year-olds, they can make their bed, or you can show them if they have a fish. Their responsibility can be giving the fish food, obviously, with you helping them. And then the 4 to 5-year-old can clear off the table and empty the waste baskets, or help water flowers. And then, let's see, a 6 to 7-year-old can set or clear the table. An 8 to 10-year-old can walk the pet or take out the trash. An 11 to 10-year-old can help prepare meals, and a teen can help prepare meals or wash cars. There's a whole list, but it shows you that any age has a responsibility, even if it's picking the blanket up and putting it on the bed. That's showing that you care for your belongings. So I encourage you to, if you are unsure of what, I don't know what is a proper thing for my child to do. Well, what is your child so interested in? Do they like to wash dishes? Well, have them help you. Maybe they can run the water or help wipe the dishes off. Help our children find interest in being helpful, because it's the right thing to do. It shows that you care. And another thing is, just because your child is a certain age, there are children who have different abilities. Some children are able to do things while others, they aren't able to do that. So let's not compare our children. When you compare your children, you set them up to fail. I want to say that again. When you compare your children, you set them up to fail, because each child has an opportunity to grow. And when you allow that child to flourish in the way that they, the best way they can, doesn't mean they don't need guide or direction. But when you compare children, it makes them seem that I need to be like that other person. And because I'm not like that person, that I'm really not doing well. But they are doing well. They're just flourishing in their own way. So as we go forward, we see that there isn't anything that a child can't reasonably learn to do. In other words, never underestimate the potential of your child. Neither should you give a child more than he is capable of doing. Your positive attitude can help your children to develop a strong work ethic and can turn this time into a pleasant experience. When you believe that a child would do something, you are going to treat them as if they can do something. You're going to use words that allow that child to know that you believe, that they can do it. I'm not saying, I want you to take out the trash, but I'll doubt you do it. Do you think they're going to do it? No, because you just put down in their mind, she doesn't believe I can do it anyway, so why try? Okay, would you please take out the trash? That gives them the acknowledgement that this is what I'm supposed to do. When they choose to do it, it's really, you can give a child a task, but it is their choice whether they do it or not. It is each person's choice. But when you have a positive attitude and you allow them to know that I do believe that you can do it, maybe sometimes they need help. So just give that extra help if they need it. In summary, there is never a shortage of work to be done in the home. Just think of the never-ending chores of laundry, house cleaning, or dishwashing. When your child becomes an adult and leaves the home, these skills will already need to be learned. This is your responsibility as a parent and teacher to train them to do these skills before they move out of the home. Don't let them leave thinking someone will be there to do it for them. Do you still plan to do their laundry and clean their room when they have their own place? Do we really plan to do that? So when you really think in the long term, this is not about my 5-year-old turning 10. This is about my 5-year-old turning 20, turning 30, turning 40. All of these skills that we teach them, they're going to take them. Yes, they're going to learn from different places, but the home is where it starts. So if we continue to teach our children to be responsible by our actions, I heard someone say children easily catch than they're taught. They learn by our actions more than they hear what we say a lot of the times. So if we role model by our actions through our positive words, if you think to yourself or say out loud, I really don't want to do this chore is not great, I really don't want to go to work, do you think the people around us, not even just children, but the people around us are going to, have an enjoyable day? No, because we feed off of each other. So if we do express that we don't like to do something, then we might be setting in the minds of other people that this is really not a fun thing to do. But even if we don't like to do it and we put our best foot forward in doing it, what example are we showing? That even though we might not be up to doing it, we still try our best. So at the bottom it says, list below life skills you could teach your children. For example, ironing, mending, cooking. And I went online just to see what were some life skills that people said that were needed. And a lot of them actually intertwined with the peaceful solution concepts in a lot of ways. So one was a first aid, importance of health. Another was make them do their own work, which by that was meaning that it's okay to help, but they need to know what is expected of them. Number 4, how to manage time. So give them an alarm clock that can wake them up. So they're not always waiting for mom to wake them up or their guardian to wake them up. They are aware that when this rings, this is my time to get up. And give them a planner to track their school activities so they know this is when they need to be done by. And this also helps them to not be procrastinators, which if you are, it takes some time to get out of that habit. Number 4 was decision-making skills, educating, career, finding, who your partner will be. Those are important decisions, and making decisions is something that can be hard for those who are indecisive. I am an indecisive person, I will say that. If I have 2 things, I can be indecisive, but somehow I figure out a way to be decisive or to choose. And some ways that they say that you can teach your child to make decisions is by putting like two fruits in front of them and saying, do you want an apple or an orange? It's just fruit. But right there, you started the habit of them learning how to make decisions. Also, managing and budgeting. I thought that was very interesting that they put that in there, because they said that a lot of people don't know how to budget. And maybe it's not because their parents don't know it, but the concept of budgeting teaches them what they need and versus what they want. And the fact that they have to work something teaches them the concept of patience. And that you really have to be patient. Money just doesn't come, but it's something that is earned. And one of the last things that it covered was looking at situations from another person's perspective. And they said that ways that children do that is if they tell you a story from what another person said. Let's say your friend told you, I was walking in, then I tripped and fell, and then I saw this girl. That is their perspective, the other person's perspective. So these situations are they're ways that help the child to learn to see from another person's perspective. And talking about seeing from another person's perspective, there are lots of times whenever we talk about the concept of setting our mind in advance. And a lot of times we talk about, in the Peaceful Solution, we talk about setting our mind in advance and how we prepare for situations. But in life, when you're not careful, you can actually turn into a pessimistic thinker. Have you ever realized that? Because you can be so scared to set your mind in advance that I'm setting my mind in advance if this bad occurs. But you're actually setting yourself up to fail. So when we set our minds in advance, we set our mind in advance to and how we're going to respond to these situations. Yes, if things come up, we'll deal with it then. But don't scare yourself out of situations, out of trying to be positive, because in ways you'll end up thinking negatively and you'll scare yourself out of situations. And this goes along with the concept of, have you ever wondered what it felt like to be normal? Everyone says that. I am not normal. Well, what does the word normal actually mean? If you're trying your best in life, if you're trying to get through life, stay sane, if you don't have things figured out, you are normal. Because everyone in society is really just trying their best. With so many curveballs coming their way, they are trying their best. So one thing I want to encourage you to do as I close this portion today is, don't call yourself crazy and don't say, I do something weird, because what you're doing is you're hiding your true self behind those words. There are a lot of phrases that are put on society that actually hide who we are. So let's no longer hide behind these words, but put our best foot forward and show who we are. Because whether you're a parent, you're a teacher, no matter who you are, you can be the best person that you can be by every choice that you make, trying your best. And it was an honor to teach you. And with this, I will turn over to the next teacher.
Great evening, everyone. Hope you're all having a wonderful, joyful week. It's great to be here today with you. Welcome to another Peaceful Solution Character Education Program Certification Class Parenting Manual. Okay, so we're on lesson 9. Okay, and before I go into the material that I'm going to cover, I would like to make an interjection, and with your permission, I like to derail not from the lesson, but from how I'm going to make the points today. And I want to share something with you that I hope you understand why I had to interject with that material right now, and the importance of that. So on the overhead, it is page 44 in the responsibility unit. We're in the teaching children responsibility. Okay, so in the responsibility unit, there's a question on page 44, and it asks, what is the purpose of us being taught? Okay, so I don't know, is it showing? I don't think so, right? Okay, well, it is page, okay, there you go. I don't know if we can zoom in, but if you can see, it says, the question is, what is the purpose of us being taught? and it says that we are learning so that we can grow up to be successful, productive adults, and then teach that to our children. So a lot of the times we can question, like we don't understand the purpose of certain things, but everything in our lives can be a teaching moment. Everything, no matter what occurs. So now with that, I want you to understand that as Peaceful Solution instructors, that responsibility that is mentioned here multiplies significantly. The responsibility that we have as Peaceful Solution instructors is immense. Okay? And with that, I'm going to go into what I would like to cover with you and the importance of why I'm covering that. Okay, so on our lesson plan, procedure 3, so LP 9A, we already covered that, okay, but I wanted to focus on what that says. So I'm going to put on the overhead, it's already there, okay, paraphrase. It says paraphrase the first 2 paragraphs on page 71. Okay, that's on our lesson plan. That's the instruction to us, the instructors, the teachers. Okay, so now I'm going to put up the definition of what paraphrase means. Okay, it says to use other words to make the same point, to explain it in a different way. Okay, now the reason that that is very important, that we understand that we don't have to read the material verbatim. And when we're paraphrasing, it gives us the opportunity to look at our students and get that feedback that as instructors we need to have. Did they understand what I just said? Is it making sense to them? And you can tell a lot from how they react to when you're speaking to them. Okay? Now, the reason I'm saying that is because the concepts taught in the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program not being taught necessarily through other agencies, in other counseling centers, okay? So I'm going to give you a little bit of background. Before the child advocacy centers were built, when a child went through any kind of severe physical abuse or sexual abuse, the case was investigated by the Special Victims Unit of the local law enforcement office, by the CPS investigations team. Okay, the child was then interviewed by a therapist or a counselor. Okay, so the child in total had to do 3 or 4 different interviews. Okay, so the purpose of the children advocacy centers was 1 interview, 1 time, and the child does not need to be put through any more than that. And then that interview is shared among the investigative team. So at the Child Advocacy Center, you'll have the local law enforcement, the Special Victims Unit investigator assigned to the case. You'll have the counselor therapist assigned to the child. You'll have the counselor therapist assigned to the parents. And you'll have the CPS investigations team, whoever was assigned to that case. And they all sit and compare and talk and discuss. And a lot of the times when they're reaching certain decisions, the parents are called in so they can be made aware of how they're proceeding with the case. And it's with that the whole purpose of what I'm doing right now. Okay, so most of the time, okay, you have to understand parents are being sent to us through different agencies for different reasons. Okay, so in this particular case, the child was being seen by the therapist, the counselor at the Children's Advocacy Center. The parent, the mother, was being sent to Peaceful Solution. So we had met about 3 times, might have been 4, and the mom, she had 4 sessions already, so the mom calls me, and I could tell she was very overwhelmed, very stressed. She could hardly put in a word. And she said, Ms. Gallos, I really need to meet with you. I am sorry for the late response. I just got a call. I have a meeting tomorrow at the Advocacy Center. I'm frustrated. I'm confused. I'm scared. Could I please meet with you? So she did. She came over. We had a session, and she had questions. So the first thing she said was her child had been displaying, she hadn't shared that before. It was the first time she was sharing that with me. She said, my child is very angry all the time, and she hits me, she yells, she screams, she breaks things. And she says, and a few days ago, I had a meeting with her therapist, her counselor, and I said, well, she's doing these things. The counselor told her that is normal. That behavior is normal. And she said, and I was left very confused. And I just looked at her and, okay, so how do I help her? She says, well, I mean, she went through something and that behavior is normal. In the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program, we teach disrespect, violence is not only not normal, it's unacceptable. Okay? So when she said that to me, I said, okay. And I said, you've only had a few sessions. I said, but do you recall what our program teaches about emotions? And I said, when I introduced the program to you, I told you some of the things that we were going to learn in this program. She said, yes, you said that emotions were normal. We had positive, negative emotions, and it was uncontrolled emotions that are dangerous because they can cause behavior in us that's unacceptable when we don't learn how to control them. I said, okay, so your child being angry, that's normal. Disrespectful, aggressive behavior is not. And she understood that. And I saw a sign of relief on her face. And I said, and she just needs to be taught how to deal with those emotions. And she needs to be reminded, yes, I understand why you're angry. But we are going to talk about it. We're going to find solutions. Whatever you're angry about, we can find a solution where is a right, peaceful, moral solution where you don't hurt yourself, you don't hurt anyone, you don't hurt anyone's property, you don't damage anything. And so, see, we don't tell them, well, the counselor is wrong, because the counselor had partial information correct, right? It is normal to be angry. What's not normal is to react in a violent manner. And children and adults, teenagers, no matter how old we are, we need to know that, okay? And when you explain to a child, the fact that you're angry is okay. I understand why you're angry. What is not acceptable is for you to react this way, for you to disrespect me by yelling, hitting, or throwing things. So the mother was very relieved. And the reason I'm sharing this with you is because a lot of the times, that is exactly the situation. And she said, you don't know how frustrated, overwhelmed, and hopeless I had been feeling because I did not understand how I could help my child. Okay, so the importance of us communicating to the parents the concepts here and making sure they understood what we explained to them is of utmost importance. Okay, because this mother really thought, like, this is a nightmare and it's not going to end. Steps had been taken to resolve the situation that put the family in danger, but the child was going through immense pain and didn't know how to handle it. And because she's being told by her counselor, well, that, that's normal. The mom is confused. She actually yelled at her mother at one time. My counselor says this is normal and I have the right. You see the words we use, okay? And the reason that's why I'm touching on this is because when we communicate as parents, teachers, with one another, with our children, we have to be very mindful with our words, okay? And when we paraphrase something that we're teaching, that gives us the opportunity to make eye contact with our students, and really get that feedback. Did they understand what I just explained? Okay. And remember what I just said. I opened up with the responsibility that we have as Peaceful Solution instructors is immense. Okay. Peaceful Solution instructors are called to meetings with CPS to sit with the family. They ask of our recommendation for them to close a case. That's how important what we're doing right now. And I know you understand that because you're sitting here, right? But I just want to encourage you to understand why we cannot have a moment of weakness where we feel like, oh, should I really do this? No, every moment that we have, we need to spend training and we need to spend studying because that's how important our job is. Okay, so with that, I would like to touch on another thing. So when we're paraphrasing, we're not changing the message, we're not adding or deleting the message. We are conveying the message in any words that we feel we need to so that our students can understand. Okay. Another important thing is that when we're teaching, see, when you're teaching on a one-to-one, sometimes that can be less stressful for the person, or it might be more stressful. There's some people that feel more comfortable in a group because they feel that not the whole attention is on them. But that's a matter of just personality. You know, some people are very comfortable in a group, some people are not. So one of the things that you want to convey when you're teaching is if you have a question and you don't feel comfortable asking because we're in a group setting, I still need you to ask. So, you know, wait after class, call me, whatever, but you want to make sure that parents do not ever leave with doubts. Okay, parents are students. Doesn't, you know, sometimes the students that we have are not necessarily parents already. Okay, but whatever we're teaching, you want to convey that same message to the student. Okay, so responsibility is a big thing, and that's one of the things that when we're teaching this lesson, we have to remind the parents we have a whole book on just responsibility. That's how big it is. That's how important it is. That's how much in depth you can go with teaching responsibility. Okay, and like I said, our words are very important. When you're teaching, you want to communicate this as often as you can. When children or anybody, okay, think somebody did something wrong and they come and say, I'm sorry. Okay? Sometimes our answer can be, it's okay. Now, when I hear that as a teacher, if I'm in a classroom or when I hear that, I said, okay, can we rephrase that? Because whatever the person did that they're asking forgiveness for obviously was not okay. If it had been okay, there's no reason to ask for forgiveness, correct? So if the person is asking for forgiveness, our response should be what? I forgive you, right? Or I'm really sorry about what I did. Please forgive me. We need to make these, because we're talking right now about routine. We're talking about habits, okay? And how do habits become habits? Repetition, right? We have to keep repeating the same thing. So if we get used to asking or saying things, before we know it, okay, there's the next, can we show the next card, please? It's on the overhead. Okay, so I give an instruction, I ask for somebody to do something for me, and they call me back, it's done. Okay, so my first response is thank you very much. I greatly appreciate it. I greatly appreciate you. Okay. Another Peaceful Solution instructor a week ago said, sometimes we get too busy being busy. And the danger of that is that we can lose sight that that should be my response every single time. Because if I'm going to wait for when I have time to respond that way, you'll be getting the last answer on that. And we start doing that, okay? So first I say, thank you very much. I greatly appreciate you. I greatly appreciate it. The next one, you tell me, okay, it's done. Thanks. Okay. Then it's okay. Then it's the letter K. Then it's a thumbs up. Okay. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong per se, but this is how then we start communicating with one letter words. It's not even a word. K. So the first response takes us about 12 seconds to type up or to give on the phone. Okay. The last one takes you a second. So for 11 seconds, we think we wasted time in being courteous, friendly. And this is a pattern that gets developed. And I'm not just talking this about, I mean, this is, I'm posing like a work area, but that's, I mean, at home it occurs the same way. Last lesson was teaching respect. And it reminded us, you know, first we get, sweetie, could you get me that, please? Before you know it, the brother's asking the sister, give me that. And then before you know it, we're not even asking, we're just taking it. Because that's how patterns are developed. So that's the importance of us when we're teaching this. You know, I mean, the concepts are so deep, okay? But we want to make sure that our parents truly understand, because then they have to leave the place. And one of the differences between our program and other counseling sessions, what they call counseling therapy, okay, is that when a person goes to therapy, they go there to address one issue, you know, whatever situation got them referred there in the first place. When they come to us, part of our introduction is, I'm going to give you tools. We don't have to discuss why you're here, because I'm going to give you tools that you need, that you're going to be able to go home and you're going to practice them with your children, at work, with your husband, with a neighbor. Everywhere you go, you're going to have the tools that whatever comes up your way, we're going to have the tools that we need to solve it peacefully, morally, respectfully. Okay, so that is, I just wanted really to interject with that, because that situation always stands out in my mind. Okay, because if the mother had not called me, in her mind, she was completely overwhelmed and she was very confused. Okay, and so what we don't put down any other program, we don't talk against any other program, we just emphasize to our students, this is what we teach. Okay, because believe it or not, our students very quickly, okay, what she was able to do, this lady was able to do, and this is the amazing part of this all. Okay, what this lady was able to do, she sat in that meeting, okay, with such confidence that she said, I don't want my child coming here anymore. I want her going to Peaceful Solution. I want her to get therapy there. And they had to grant her that. It was her right as a parent. Okay, so but see, if parents don't know that that's a tool they have, they wouldn't even know where to find an answer or where to look. Okay, and that in itself can be very overwhelming, very scary. Okay, so then on that, and like I said, I hope that you don't mind me interjecting, before continuing with the chapter with that, but I really felt it was very important, because when we're teaching responsibility, okay, that child, she needed to know that even though she was angry, and it was understandable that she was angry, she was still being held responsible and accountable for her actions. Okay, because think about that. If in our mind we are justified that someone did something to us, so I have the right to be angry, so therefore, I can go into this place where the person that hurt me works, and I can shoot him, her, because that's where the mindset can go, because she's being told, well, it's normal. And our words and how we convey a message It's very important. And see, the mom learned that day. I said, well, what's normal is how she's feeling. I mean, those are her emotions. Emotions are normal. And she really left with that understanding that, yes, we are entitled to our emotions, and our emotions are normal. How we handle our emotions is what makes it acceptable or unacceptable. Okay? The other thing that I wanted to touch upon before I continue here, and I think I've lost my... Okay, so on page 27. On page 27 of our parenting manual, that's, it might be up on there. Okay, so I highlighted when we're going over that, says, do you only see the bad that I do? Don't you ever see the great things? And the introduction to that says, be willing to listen. A great teacher is also a great listener. And it says no child should ever have to say. Okay, now I crossed it out, but I crossed it out with a pencil. But above it I put, no one should ever have to say, do you only see the bad that I do? Because remember, that's a message. When we recognize that someone did something well, right? That person feels appreciated. That person gets that acceptance. Oh, okay, what I'm doing, I'm on the right path right now. Okay? And we need to be as quick to praise as we are to correct. Correction is important, is necessary. But so is praise. So is that acknowledgement that they did something well. How do you think people grow up to be confident people? We're not born confident. I mean, it's a behavior. It's taught. It's a trait. How is that trait developed in people? Well, I mean, because I can tell you, I mess up a lot, several times a day. But that does not put in my mind the thought like, well, you know, like the great teacher before me said, you know, if I lack confidence, then any correction, anything might seem like, I can never get anything right. I'm a loser. Okay? And we need to, as teachers, we have the responsibility to encourage, motivate, inspire. That's part of that responsibility that we're being given. As certified peaceful solution instructors, that is one of our duties. Making sure that our students leave knowing, yes, you might mess up. And yes, you will be held accountable for that. But you know what? You're on the right track. We ask forgiveness when we mess up, and we move forward. People grow sometimes to be 50, 60 years old with severe emotional, mental pain because they lack that confidence to say, yeah, I did mess up. Okay, that was 50 years ago, right? We're working on ourselves every day. One of the things that I like to text people when I have the opportunity, I always say this: have a great day on purpose. Have a great day and with purpose. Okay? Somebody once asked me, do you ever have a bad day? I said, no. I knew what they meant. Okay, but we go back to our words, right? How we ask a question or how we express ourselves. You never have a bad day? No. Never? No. I have bad moments. But that bad moment does not determine my whole day. So when we start communicating that, see, because sometimes it's very easy for us to fall in that trap. I'm having a bad day. Well, the whole day? The whole day was bad? There was nothing great? There was nothing positive? There was nothing joyful? You know, because we go back to the always and never, right? But see, that's a mindset. So teaching responsibility to our children, like the great teacher before me said, it's through our example. And if they see us become flustered and then express, I'm having a bad day, what do you think is the next thing we're going to hear from our children the next time they have a bad moment? Well, I had a bad day. I'm having a bad day. And sometimes that can be an excuse. Okay? And those are the words, our vocabulary is very important. How we communicate with our children is very important. How we communicate with our students is very important. Okay, and all of that is being taught in this program. Okay, but again, we're not going to make changes overnight. Our habits are not developed overnight. But a habit is formed by being repetitious. And we always have to be mindful of that. Okay, and remember, sometimes the words escape our mouth because we're being, how does it called? The opposite of self-control is impulsive, right? So I'm upset and I utter the words. And remember that what we're training our students to do is stop, think, okay? It's okay to be upset, and it's okay to tell the person why you're upset. That's how an issue is going to get resolved. But how we word our emotions, how we word our feelings, and that is the importance of us learning all these definitions. Like I tell the parents, and so do you know why we have the definitions of the emotions in the self-control unit, page 31, 32? Because if I'm able to look at you and say, you know what, I'm feeling really frustrated. This went wrong, this went wrong, this went wrong. Okay? If I'm able to verbalize it, then I'm dealing with it. The emotion will pass and things will be all right. Okay? But it's when we don't know how to express what we're feeling, okay, we don't know how to convey it or say it, and so we act on it. Okay? And that's when we have situations that can become a problem. Okay? So going on to our next, where the great teacher before me left off, she was talking on page 74. On that list, it says, do you plan to still do their laundry? She closed with that. I was like, well, no, right? As a matter of fact, hopefully, I mean, that's not even something we're contemplating, because when we're teaching our children, that's one of the things that we tell them, you know, you're not going to live with me forever. One day you're going to leave this house. And so how are you going to do this? Now, a lot of the times they want to say, well, you know, I'll have a maid, or I'll have a housekeeper, or I'll have somebody, you know, to help me, you know, and then say, okay, so how are you going to teach that person to do things how you like them? You ponder a question for them. Like, because everything is teaching, learning. And one of the things that that lady said when she was much better and felt relieved that she knew what she was going to go and walk into that meeting with, she said, she looked at me and she says, so how do you do it? And I said, she says, when you're going through something, how do you do it? And I said, well, I call my teachers. You have teachers? Of course I do. And I said, remember because as part of our introduction, we say, I'm an instructor of the Peaceful Solution. I'm also a student of the Peaceful Solution. We never stop training. We never stop learning. And I said, that's forever. We're forever going to be students of the Peaceful Solution, right? And our knowledge as instructors is just, all it does is give us a lot more responsibility, right? And we remind ourselves of that when we're handling situations around us. I hope you all have a wonderful, joyful rest of the week, and we'll see you next week. Thank you for coming.